3 days ago, I cut a hole in a chain link fence and crawled into a town that isn't on any map. No road sign, no exit ramp. My brother Denny walked through that same fence 11 years ago, chasing a story nobody wanted him to write, and he never walked back out. So I went in after him. I had a flashlight, a busted phone, and one photo of his face. I did not expect what I found in the first hour. A town where every single person is hiding something, and where my name was already written down before I even climbed that fence. Welcome to Hollow's End. Population 47. A town so small you could walk it in 20 minutes, so quiet you could hear a secret rot from 3 houses away. The sign at the edge says Est 1962, a friendly place. That sign is lying. Everything in Hollow's End is lying. And once I started pulling threads, I could not stop. The first secret found me before I found it. I was hiding behind the church when I saw the mayor, a stick-thin man named Harlan Voss, slip through the back door of the library at midnight. Not for a book. He was meeting the librarian, Miss Prue, and from the sound of it, this had been going on for 6 years, behind the back of his wife, who also happens to run the only diner in town, and who makes his coffee every single morning with a smile that could kill a man slower than poison. Funny, right? A cheating mayor. Almost cute compared to what came next. Because 2 houses down, the baker, a nervous little guy named Corwin who smells permanently like burnt sugar, has been skimming flour rations meant for the whole town and selling the surplus 2 towns over. Small stuff. Petty stuff. But it told me something important. Everyone in Hollow's End was stealing a little piece of something, quietly, for years, and nobody ever got caught. Why would a town this small, this watched, let that mini secret slide for that long? That question sat in my chest like a stone. It got stranger. The school teacher, a stern woman named Agnes Whitlock, has been passing every single student for 30 years, even the ones who never show up to class, because the town doctor asked her to. That doctor, Willa Trent, the only medical professional in a 40-mile radius, isn't actually a licensed doctor. Hasn't been since a hospital review board pulled her credentials a decade ago somewhere else. She just never told anyone here, and here never asked. Why would a whole town quietly agree to hand its children's grades and its own health to 2 people they knew were faking it? You start to notice a pattern. Nobody in Hollow's End enforces a single rule on anybody else. Ever. Then I found the scarecrow. Every year, Hollow's End holds a harvest festival, and every year, they build one scarecrow to stand at the crossroads until spring. I found last year's scarecrow behind the tool shed, wrapped in a tarp instead of burned like tradition says it should be. I pulled the tarp back, expecting straw. I found a coat that still had a wallet in the pocket, stitched shut at the collar like someone wanted it to stay hidden for good. A wallet with a name I did not recognize, and a photo of a stranger's family tucked behind a driver's license 3 years expired. Someone in this town had made a person disappear and dressed the evidence up as decoration. I did not sleep that night. I almost got caught the next one. I was going through Miss Prue's desk in the library looking for anything with a name I recognized when I heard her key in the front door at 2 in the morning. I dropped behind the returns cart and held my breath for what felt like an hour. She didn't turn the lights on. She walked straight to a locked drawer, pulled out a leather ledger, whispered something that sounded like, "Not yet, not until the notebook's gone," and locked it back up. Then she left. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my flashlight. Whose notebook was she talking about? I had a horrible, hopeful feeling I already knew. The next morning, I went to the sheriff, because that's what you do, even in a town like this, even when every nerve in your body says don't. Sheriff Dale Prewitt is a big, blocky man with a laugh like a slamming door. And when I asked him, carefully, carefully, about missing persons in Hollow's End, he told me there had never been one. Not one in 60 years. He said it so fast it sounded rehearsed. Later that day, I found the real accident report buried under a floorboard in the station's records room. A car crash, 2 years back, 3 names, 1 survivor. The official record says all 3 walked away fine. The real one says otherwise. Sheriff Prewitt didn't just bend the truth. He built an entire filing cabinet out of lies. So here's where it stopped being funny. Every secret I found connected to another one. The mayor's affair paid for the librarian's silence about the crash. The baker's stolen flour fed a family the town wasn't supposed to acknowledge existed. The teacher's fake passing grades and the doctor's fake license kept two frightened strangers employed and unquestioned. The scarecrow wasn't a joke. It was a warning, dressed up cute so nobody would ask questions. Hollow's End wasn't a town full of people who happened to have secrets. Hollow's End was a machine built entirely out of them, and every gear was turning to hide one single thing. I just didn't know what that thing was yet. That's when I found Denny's notebook. It was in the church, taped under a pew, exactly where my brother would hide something if he wanted only one person on earth to find it. Pages and pages of names, dates, a hand-drawn map of the town with red circles around 6 houses. And on the last page, in handwriting I hadn't seen in 11 years, 4 words: "They're not hiding crimes." I read that line maybe 20 times. If it isn't crimes, then what has this entire town been protecting for 60 years? What could possibly be worse than a cover-up? I found out that night, in the basement of the church, in a room the pastor didn't want me to see. Because the pastor, a soft-spoken man everyone calls Milo, turned around when I said Denny's name, and for 1 second, one single second, his whole face changed. His hands stopped moving. The lantern he was holding shook just slightly, and underneath 11 years of a different name, a different haircut, a different life, I saw my brother. He hadn't disappeared. He'd been rewritten. Here's the truth. Hollow's End had been burying under every small, stupid, human secret in town. This isn't a town that traps people. It's a town that saves them. Every resident here came from somewhere else, running from something worse. A violent ex, a crime boss, a life that was actively trying to kill them. Even Miss Prue, it turns out, buried a name of her own 30 years before she ever met the mayor. Hollow's End gives them a new name, a new house, a new set of neighbors who ask no questions, on one condition: everyone keeps a secret. Not because the town is corrupt, because a town where nobody has anything to hide is a town where the wrong person can spot exactly who's really hiding. The affairs, the theft, the false reports, the fake diplomas hanging in a fake doctor's office, all of it camouflage. Ordinary, human, forgettable sins stacked on top of the one unforgettable secret underneath. An entire population of people who used to be somebody else. Denny found that story 11 years ago, and instead of writing it, exposing 47 people back into the danger they'd escaped, he did something I am still not sure I've forgiven him for. He joined them. He let them give him a new name. He let them bury Denny Vance the way they buried every other name in this town. And he became Pastor Milo, guardian of secrets he used to hunt for a living. Standing in that basement, he told me the hardest thing I have ever heard out loud. Coming to find him wasn't an accident. It was never going to be an accident. You don't just wander into Hollow's End, he said. This place decides who wanders in. Because Hollow's End had been watching me for weeks before I ever touched that fence. Every clue I found, the affair, the scarecrow, the buried report, Miss Prue's whispered ledger, even the loose section of chain link I discovered, had been placed exactly where I would trip over it. Denny knew I'd never stop looking for him. So the town did what it does best. It built me a trail of ordinary secrets to walk, one at a time, small enough to keep me moving, dark enough to keep me hooked, until I arrived exactly where they needed me to arrive. Standing in a basement, face to face with a brother who wasn't supposed to exist anymore, deciding whether I was going to blow up the one place that ever kept him safe. So here's the twist under the twist. I could have run. I could have taken the notebook, taken the story, taken my brother's real name back out into the world where it belonged. Part of me wanted to. Instead, I did the thing that no narrator with any sense should do. I sat down in that basement, and I asked Milo, asked Denny, to tell me everything. Not to expose it, to understand it. Because what kind of story ends with me burning down the one place that finally kept my brother alive? Here's what I realized. Crouched in a church basement in a town that isn't on any map, everybody in Hollow's End is guilty of something small, so that nobody ever has to ask about the something enormous. And maybe that's not so different from anywhere else. You've got secrets. I've got secrets. The difference is, in Hollow's End, keeping yours might be the only reason you're still alive. I left 3 days later, alone. Denny stayed because Milo has a congregation now, and 46 people who trust him with their real names. Miss Prue never did tell me whose ledger that was, and honestly, I stopped needing to know. I promised I'd never tell any of their real names. I'm telling you almost everything else, because you deserve to know what's out past that fence. And because frankly, this story needed to be told by somebody, just not with the names that matter. 3 days ago, I cut a hole in a fence and broke into a town that isn't supposed to exist, looking for a brother the world had erased. I found him. I found 46 other people just like him. And I learned the hardest lesson Hollow's End has to teach. Some people don't break into secret towns to expose them. Some people break in and quietly choose to keep the secret too.